and something night, and they couldn't get up. That's why they were just so full from dinner.
I want to know
what about you?
So,
just as I say, you just try and stay true to what you're doing. There's a very healthy influence that an audience has on you, but there's an unhealthy influence as well. And if they're very quiet, then you can try and force things in the wrong way. So the instinct is basically just to keep listening and keep the reality.
how did your training at RADA prepare you to do a naked cartwheel?
That was the second term we did naked cartwheels. So I was seriously.
I thought you were very brave.
Get badly hurt.
Yeah, no, we did naked handstands.
Did they tell you that when they cast you?
What?
That you'd have to do this? Did they
He improvised that.
Oh, you made it up yourself?
It wasn't in the script.
That was his input.
All that RADA
But it's
background.
effective.
So
all that classical training.
But that comes from having a great rehearsal process, actually, because I think it's so daring of Iain to do that. And I think it's so important, and it's awful when people try now to say, oh, we can rehearse it in 4 weeks, we can rehearse it in 3 weeks, quick. So rehearsal is meant to explore the text, is meant to explore each other, is meant to discover the play together, and it's also about discovering your director, your other actors, and that's the beauty of being an actor, is that you become very close to people in a very short amount of time, and in that rehearsal process is when it happens. And if you try to, and I think it's the same on film where they say, oh, come in and you say, when you're talking to your agent, well, how long are they going to plan on rehearsing this? They, oh, no, well, they're going to rehearse for 5 days. You go, count me out, I'm not interested. Because unless you have that rehearsal time, I don't think you find the magic.
And it affects, subconsciously, if you're in a 4-week rehearsal process. I mean, I've not really thought about this before, but I'm sure it's true that as an actor, there are certain things that you have to go through to get up and to be ready to be roughly in the right place at the end of the day. If you've got 4 weeks rehearsal, you'll start learning those lines that bit quicker, just a forced memorizing of a text, forced learning of the lines affects the way you do it. It's really, I hate learning lines. I like to read it.
Well, isn't it true that Judi Dench, she doesn't learn a line before she comes to
I read that. I read that.
That's right.
I don't either.
Right.
Because I think that it depends so much on your fellow actors, what's going to be fed to you.
Yeah.
You can't get any sort of preconceived idea.
Yeah.
But I wondered if you have this experience, which I find terrifying. When I go to do a new play, I'm very anxious to know about the people I'm going to work with, because I want to know if I can share, if there are people who are generous, if we can share emotions and feelings. It's a very painful time, the early time in rehearsal. You're with maybe strangers, and you're trying to communicate, and you want to know about this. And I find this quite frightening. After the thrill, maybe, I want to play this role, and then, oh my God, who's in it? And keep asking your friends, are they nice? Are they nice? Are they nice people?
No.
She's a bit... or he's, and then some people you heard are the nicest people. They've had a bad sales talk with somebody.
It is funny that, because I think, in training and preparation for it, you really focus on, the way you can prepare as an actor and different methods and, things you can sort of focus on. And actually the best thing to get good work out of yourself, out of the people around you, are just people whose taste you really trust, who you really believe in, to be in a relaxed atmosphere with a director who's coming up with ideas that are better than yours, someone who you look at and you're acting with and you think, I just believe everything that you're saying. You can go anywhere and I trust what it is, and then good things will happen.
That's true.
Now, did you two know each other before Blue Room?
We met for dinner with Sam Mendes, the director, the night before we had to start rehearsals.
Okay.
And Sam was wonderful like that, because the way he cast it was he cast me and he cast Iain both separately, neither of us having a say in who was going to be playing opposite, and we arrived and he said, don't worry, you'll have great chemistry, and that was it.
But he knew.
And I trust, he put it together, which I think you have to trust the director to do.
Yeah.
And I remember we sat at dinner that night and we both went, 5 characters.
I think I'm suited to one. But
And I said, have you learnt any of your lines? And I of course I'd learnt everything. And then as soon as we got to rehearsals, I went, forget it. No, I can't remember a thing. And then we rewrote a lot of it anyway. So
During
next time I will not learn a line when I go into before I go into rehearsal, because it actually proved to be more difficult because I had to unlearn stuff and
it's constraining.
but the reason I did it was because I'm obviously Australian. I had to play French and a number of different English characters, and so I had a lot of attention on the accents, and I wanted to make sure that if I was going to appear on the London stage that I was going to be credible with my accent.
And it's quite terrifying to appear on the London stage.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's terrifying to appear on Broadway, too. I'm equally terrifying. but it's terrifying.
It is. I found Broadway far more terrifying.
To be on stage on Broadway?
Why is it terrifying on Broadway?
Yeah.
Not the audiences are wonderful. They love actors. It's used to be the 6 butchers of Broadway, but they can close shows in a night. You know, it's quite frightening.
Well, when you're talking about terrifying, I'm sorry, the thing that let's talk about real terror, because we began to talk about this before. Let's talk about stage fright. And how do you deal with that? And I mean, you are subject, aren't you all, to stage fright, which is a real malady and a real virus. And we talked a little bit before the show about it was Larry Olivier who helped you get over that.
I think that we all have. I think if actors talk to one another, they will find that there's been a period in their lives in which they've suffered stage fright. And mine hit me in 1979, and it was painful and it was terrifying. And I would break out in a perspiration on stage. And it was Laurence Olivier. It was an hour-long program he gave about his life. And he described how for 12 years he suffered stage fright so badly. Some of the great performances of his life were performed during that time. It was so bad he had to have friends standing in the wings that he could look at so that he knew they were there. And when I heard that, it helped me. And when I got over, it was somewhere in the mid-80s. I was doing a solo performance at Harvard in New York, wherever.
Terrible place.
At Harvard. And I had very difficult stuff, including a lot of James Joyce, Finnegan's Wake, which is incredibly dense. And as the music started, I thought I was going to say, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. I can't perform this evening. But the light hit me and the music started, and I started. And I kept on for 2 hours, and that was the beginning of my road back. So I don't know if any of you have any stories like that.
I've not really. It's because I'm.
Well, you're years younger than
I
me.
know. Well, I know it's coming round the corner. But so far, I've not really had stage fright. You get petrified. Everyone gets scared, don't they?
What's the difference in the English audience and the American audience? You've done the play both there and here for a limited, quite a time.
Do they laugh at different places?
How can you describe the difference in reaction?
They laugh.
Yeah, there's different. I mean, obviously the humour plays differently in the different countries, doesn't it? But also, I think because we're on a different stage, the Donmar was very small and very intimate, and it had 3 sides to it. And then the Court Theatre here on Broadway is obviously much larger, and it's a Pross Arch, so you just have, I mean, it plays differently just in terms of the actual theatre, which you kept telling me, oh, it'll be different because it'll be a different theatre, and now I've experienced it. But back to stage fright, I also I mean, I haven't had stage fright. Before, on Broadway, I was far more terrified than I was in England. I think that was to do with the capacity of the audience, but also, it just hits you at different times. But I do think there's something, I love the adrenaline. I love the fear. If I'm not frightened before I go on, I usually don't give a good performance.
But
There's
Nicole,
something
it's
about
not
the...
just
No,
nerves.
I know.
Nerves are different to terror.
Yeah, it's just, yes. No, I haven't had the terror, but I do, but just in terms of just
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
going off on a tangent, I think there's something wonderful about the adrenaline. It feeds your performance. It's somehow, for me, I can access